of hopelessness and helplessness. The government gives them the drugs, builds bigger prisons, passes a 3-strike law, and then wants us to sing God Bless America. No, 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 not God Bless America. God damn America. That's in the Bible for killing innocent people. God damn America for treating us citizens as less than human. God damn America as long as she tries to act like she is God and she is supreme.
All right, that was fucking weird as hell.
Achtung, wir nur sprachen Sie Deutsch.
Welcome to Pod Damn America. This week, special edition, we will be reviewing the Young Karl Marx, in the tradition of Young Sheldon, Young Pope.
Young Money.
Young Money, yeah.
Rogue One. What else? There's a bunch of other dumb prequel shit happening right now.
I kept
right?
waiting for Mel Brooks to show up in the movie.
Yeah?
There's Young Frankenstein. Young
Right.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Jungian psychology.
That's
one.
Young, J-U-N-G.
Uh-huh.
It was Young Karl
I
Marx.
see what you did there.
Yeah.
You know, if this is a Mel Brooks movie, do you know, communism is actually, it's referred to as Marx's monster. It's not actually the monster. Does that make any sense? All right.
Yeah, but too late.
Like I fried my brain. Yeah. I just tried to put together a joke
Marx's
like
specter.
10 fucking minutes after it even made sense.
Jesus Christ.
Hell yeah. All right. Before we get into this, I guess, do we have anything we need to get out of the way before we get right into our complete weird fucking deconstruction of the Young Marx? I don't really think so. This movie, does anyone really know anything about it? I literally just threw that on going like, I fucking heard this is a movie.
I had no idea this was a thing until you told me. I thought honestly we were going to watch that movie with Steve Buscemi playing something about
Fargo?
Lenin?
Oh, the death of
Lenin.
Stalin.
Death
Yeah.
of Stalin, right.
Yeah.
I thought that's what we were watching until I realized it was Karl Marx.
Oh, yeah. That actually looks like maybe better.
There's more.
I heard that movie was kind of funny.
Yeah, that's what I heard too. It was kind of funny. But no, I didn't know. I had no idea what we were watching before we started.
Yeah.
This film...
it was by Raoul Peck, who was the guy who made I Am Not Sure, Hey, about James Baldwin.
Is that what the movie's called?
Well, it's called something else, but I probably shouldn't say the name.
Oh.
I am not your fill in the blank. Yeah.
I got you.
Oh, got it.
It's not that N-word, but it's one that, you know.
It's one that's still in like
It's
in
the rotation.
You know how the NAACP is like, ooh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that still what that stands for, or
Yeah.
is it just like SAT where it doesn't stand for anything?
I think you might be right. I think people don't really say the whole thing all the way out anymore, but that's what that shit stands for.
Wait, doesn't SAT stand for Standardized Assessment?
It did, but they changed it, so now it's just the acronym without actually.
Thank you, snowflakes.
It's like ATM machine. What's
Right.
going on there?
Oh, it's like you only YOLO once, right? I got it.
Yeah. It's like I'm gonna stop. I was gonna do a POC joke, and then I didn't even know how to even lean into it. It's like a POC machine. Oh, that's like redundant, right?
POC machine? You mean capitalism?
Oh,
Yeah, dude.
I guess that making POC in my scenario, or it's just operating on the labor of POC. I guess, yeah. It's the second one.
Well,
that makes sense.
Well,
I've been reading a lot about automation lately because like there are a lot of people that if you talk about minimum wage raising, their thing is like you raise the minimum wage. Guess what? Next thing that's going to happen is that the McDonald's isn't run by humans at all. It's run by robots or whatever. And you can like really easily trace this whole argument back to like it's the same. It has to do with like scarcity of labor or whatever, but it's the same argument they would give you against Mexicans, where they scare you with like, oh, Mexicans are going to take your jobs. You try to raise the the wage, they'll come in and work for less or whatever. But it's like this weird shit where in like a year or two we're gonna see really bigoted, weird Texan guys just switching all of their Mexican hate to like robots, like almost as if they're the same thing.
What
you know?
if they start making robot Mexicans?
Playing that loud music, you know?
All that beeping and the booping.
Well, that's originally you know the phrase Luddite.
Yes, I do. Yes. Yeah.
That's originally from it was around the time of Marx. There
People
were
sabotaging machinery.
They would.
Yeah. And it's like I love how kitschy it became now. It's just like, well, to be fair, there is some, there's some source for that fear because I don't know if you know this, but a factory burned down recently. Because someone was charging their Samsung.
I fucking
Galaxy.
knew you were gonna do that. I fucking knew you were. I saw that from so far away. It's so fun to do.
I know. Oh fuck.
The Samsung Galaxy S. Very good crowd so far. All right.
Oh shit. Okay.
All right, let's get into what the fuck we just watched.
All right. So we started off right. We were in the woods. I thought it was high, but I wasn't. And then just some fucking people were like sticks.
Yeah, they get people on horses.
People on horses, right? They're
sticks.
just like the twigs. If they are off the branch, they do not belong to people. But if they are on the branch, they belong to people.
I thought we were watching the trailer for the new Assassin's Creed. There was just a bunch of
Assassin's Creed Revolution.
Yeah. Bunch of just vague people just dressed vaguely from the past.
Yeah.
In some way. A lot of
Yeah.
weird like colonial era shit.
It's like they co-opt a Ren Fair. They're like, it's small budget.
So it opens with this weird artistic sort of metaphor of some people gathering bundles of sticks and then like some other people just raiding them.
It was like a Game of Thrones.
Hitting
Right?
them with sticks.
Okay, so that was the total allegory dream sequence. Or was that, okay.
A total allegory dream
I
sequence.
kind of thought that was like they were building a utopian sort of community out in the woods.
Well, the reason I would say that to me it seemed like a dream sequence is because like later on in the movie, Marx has another dreams about the woods.
That, yeah.
And then he saw some dude getting stabbed just like in the opening.
He keeps like three-eyed raven style astral projecting into the woods to like understand communism.
Yeah.
And it's just in these really basic metaphors of like people killing each other and shit. And,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh, well, that kind of goes back to what the philosophical like state of nature, like all philosophers have
the natural order of things and stuff
yeah.
like that. Yeah, I think that's for the birds. I'm just into stabbing people for sticks. I think that's dope.
Yeah. Okay, so after this, we kind of get into the movie, and we're sort of
We meet the titular young Karl Marx.
within about 10 minutes, I was able to
Emphasis on
figure
the
out
tit, you know what I'm
which
saying?
one was Karl Marx, because a lot of them had the same kind of Jufro thing going on.
Yeah.
Until this one guy, you're like able, oh fuck, okay, this is the young Marx,
He's the alpha fro.
and he looks like a barista, right?
Oh yeah,
He
he's
looks- yeah.
he's like my barista that I saw this morning, which I'm gonna compliment him tomorrow when I see him and be like, hey, you remind me of a young Karl Marx, and I'm sure he'll go over the counter and kiss me on the mouth.
Yeah, if
That's
he's
all
a
he's wanted.
barista in Bushwick, he will.
That's all he
probably appreciate
wants.
it. Yeah.
That's all he wants.
Yeah, it's probably the guy who played him in the movie or something. He threw out.
for free. I didn't know you spoke German. Jerry, bitch, Jerry.
Throughout this movie, the guy who plays young Marx, like, I think I'm probably just imagining this, but he just seems to. At first, he kind of looks like a little bit like he's in the Mars Volta or something. But then, as his character slowly ages and his fro gets a little weirder, he goes through like the guy who played Hyde on that '70s show.
Oh yeah, Danny Masterson.
All the way up to.
Scientologist.
By the way, odd connection. Danny Masterson is like a rapist. He got Me Too'd, and he assaulted the wife of Cedric Bixler-Zavala from the Mars Volta. I don't know. I just connected.
Whoa!
If you follow Cedric Bixler on Twitter, he's he's very pro Beto O'Rourke, which is cool. But also he just tweets about Danny Masterson all day because he just hasn't been like prosecuted in any way.
Really?
It's crazy. So fuck Hyde. He's apparently a dick.
What a piece of shit.
but also okay,
not out of character for.
Oh no, totally in character.
Yeah. So that it's near the end of the movie. I feel like Marx, he just starts to look like because he's a poor person in this movie. So at times he kind of just happenstance sort of looks like one of those old hobo clown comedians, like without the makeup on. You know, he's just got that big forehead and the fucking poofy hair and like a busted ass top hat on top of it.
Without the nose and the bindle.
He looks like Sweet Tooth from Twisted Metal.
At night when he takes off his makeup, he's writing the manifesto.
Yeah.
So he definitely has a sad Jewish clown by the end. He definitely looks like a barista. He definitely looks hungover the whole after halfway in the movie. He looks tired as shit.
Yeah. Okay. So we should get to that drinking shit in a second. But before we get to their big night out, before we kind of entwine Marx and Engel's story together, we're introduced to Marx, and then Marx is sort of like at this like anarchist
young Hegelians.
Yeah.
This like rally in the street.
Which is that German for hooligan? Because I feel like it's German for hooligan.
They're only a hooligan if they are synthesized with an opposing non-hooligan force.
So they need the
Hegelian.
Did you just do like the smartest joke ever?
Or the stupidest, possibly.
I think it's smartest because I didn't get it. If it's stupid, I'm with you.
Hegelian's Hegel, right?
Catherine
a heckler, yeah.
Catherine Hegelian.
Why wasn't she in this? She's blacklisted. That's further evidence that she did not play Hegel in this movie.
So they're outside at this anarchist thing.
And that's when he gets in the face of this guy Prudhomme, who we'll meet later a bunch in the movie.
Oh, right, with the tent. Because and his wife was behind him, right?
Prudhomme keeps going, yeah. Prudhomme's got his weird manservant Grun, which we keep cutting
Grun,
to.
with the umlaut?
But Prudhomme he keeps saying tax. No, he keeps saying property is theft, which is like big anarchist. Someone told me this. It's funny, like political jokes. They're dorky no matter what political faction you are. So there's like dad jokes for anarchists. Somebody told me this joke once is why don't anarchists drink iced tea? Why do anarchists drink iced tea? I'm gonna butcher this. Why do anarchists drink iced tea?
Why?
Because proper tea is theft.
Oh
yeah, that's like whoa. Some guy Jello Biafra tells that to his kids, and they're like, "Dad,
come on, I'm gonna become a libertarian."
Yeah.
Oh no.
But so this guy Prudhomme is talking about how property is theft, and then Marx is in the audience going like, "But property implies
what is property?"
Yeah.
He's heckling,
or he's saying theft implies that like you owned it to begin with, or something like that.
Right. It's like you're speaking in abstracts.
Yeah. And they get into this really nerdy like fucking roast battle, which is like a theme of this movie. I feel
it is a lot of burns
because it's a movie about up and coming philosophers, you know?
Which is
Proudhon kind of doesn't give a shit though. Throughout the whole movie, he's just kind of like he's doing his thing.
He looks like the Monopoly man.
Yeah, he's like making a living, churning his stuff.
He felt like a comic who's been on TV who like you're like I should hang out with him, I guess, right? So I can get on TV, but you realize he doesn't give a fuck about you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
To the 3 comics that listen to this show.
He's a road hack. He's burnt out. He's playing the funny bones, baby.
Oh yeah.
Prudhomme. He'll get what's coming to him.
But he's got a lot of merch though.
And then right around the same time in the film, we're introduced to this young Friedrich Engels.
Shout out to Friedrich Engels, man.
Who is I couldn't get for like the first 30 minutes. I just was like, he looks like, is he being played by Kid Rock? He looked either like Kid Rock in a top hat or like Theon Greyjoy kind of. He had those weird bulging blue eyes.
He had but with like dope hair.
Yeah,
I did like his hair.
Yeah.
It's coiffed quite nicely.
So he's this guy who's got like he's like a rich kid, you know.
Yeah.
And his father's like furious that he's rebelling by getting into all these like communist literature things,
and
then
not going to church.
yeah,
by the way.
And but he's really interested in like working class shit, and so he goes to this weird basement where a bunch of Irish workers hang out. Right.
After his love interest.
Oh.
Not to bury the lead here, but
yeah. I'm sorry, we didn't introduce.
Actually, yeah, I skipped something. What happened?
Well, when we're introduced to Fred Ings,
nice.
we're at his father's factory, and there's an Irish lass who's piping up.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
real
Lass
mouthy.
is Scottish,
Real,
an Irish
definitely
gal,
super
not
mouthy.
Alison Irish.
Super
Yeah, she's
mouthy.
being mouthy,
Yeah,
and she gets fired.
and that woman's name?
It was like Mary or
Mary
something.
It's Mary Delgado. First and is Mary Burns, dog.
Oh yeah,
Mary
dude.
Burns, red-headed banshee of communism herself. Mary Burns.
She was thick as hell, dude.
Hell yeah, dog.
She's
THICC.
yeah, she's a snack. She was a thought, whatever the kids call.
She was a
this
communist
shit.
thought. Yeah.
Yeah. She was a radical thought, dude.
Oh.
Whoa. Well, that was what I was thinking about throughout the movie, because like I feel like they give the wives dimension,
So
but it's also like they are not going to be the centerpieces of the story. So I feel like coming at this from like a feminist lens, people might have a problem with that. But it's also like, well, what did
you could
what did
probably
you want to do?
did this
coming
pass
at
the
it
Bechdel test?
through. I think it did, because at one point there's a scene between like both of their wives, which is. Just, that sentence doesn't sound very Bechdel testy. Both of their wives have a scene together, but I mean, it kind of does. The thing is, when you take stories like this and then you try to cram them into the 3-act like Hollywood structure, you're inherently going to bend the reality of shit, which just raises all these questions of like, is it better if we tell the story like it was, like we think it actually happened, or like it was interpreted, which is probably the most offensive way, and then like, if we come back around and we try to like bridge the gap or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know, because there's parts of it where you're like, okay, this is a boring text about these people's lives,
Right.
and then they just clearly jam in like these Hollywood tropes and stuff and try to make it like, a love story or whatever, and that happens in so many movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
well, it's interesting because I feel like the version of this movie that would be more entertaining and be more realistic, and that I would identify with more and more true to history, is Karl Marx was a slob who cheated on his wife, who would go on benders, who would fucking
He got down.
And he would like write he would like procrastinate a bunch and just like write, like Capital was written like he was like drunk for half of it, and he just like would go weeks where he like wouldn't work on anything and just drink. He was a nuisance. He was a slob and a lazy piece of shit.
Well,
he was a gamer, dude.
Yeah, he was a gamer.
There are parts of this movie where I'm like, this is like a story being told from hundreds of years ago, but in the time, he is basically like making an annoying podcast that just happens to pick up or something.
Right.
Oh yeah.
My favorite line of the movie was he was in bed with his wife, and she was like, I love you so much, and I don't care that that's annoying. Which sums up my feelings on Marxism.
Yeah.
People are going to call it a cliche that,
Yeah.
I'm a Marxist or whatever. It's like, I'll take it,
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
I mean, that does kind of play into right-wing talking points about him being like cheating on his wife and being a piece of shit.
So then
But,
Martin
like,
Luther King Jr.
Yeah, you got to separate. I mean,
You gotta separate
don't
the man
have
from-
to. You don't have to separate them, but you can accept them both. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did feel like at a certain point it was Harold and Kumar invent communism, though. There was a lot of beats like that in the movie.
It felt so much like a college buddy movie or something, like at so many points, because like, okay,
there was a chase scene.
yeah, there was like a wacky Scooby-Doo fucking slapstick chase scene. That's after they meet. So young Ingalls sees this saucy redhead kind of speaking up and fighting back in his father's factory, And then he goes, I guess he goes to like some building in town, and he goes like, where are the Irish or whatever? And they're just all
like, look below you.
And they're all just in some room. They just keep everyone with red hair in like a basement or whatever.
Singing Irish songs.
Yeah.
Fill it with whiskey.
And he goes down there. And he's like, hey, I'm writing a thing. You know, he's like a blogger.
It's like, I'm here with Vice, and I'm writing a thing.
And he goes, you know, I'm writing a thing about classism, and I'm this cool, like, you know, I've got this whole movement that's about you guys and how you're exploited for your labor. And he starts sort of explaining like labor theory, and then like one guy stands up. And he goes like, what does he tell him like right before he fucking punches him?
So he's like, oh, is this a gold watch? This is did you buy this with labor? He's like, look at my hand.
Oh yeah.
You see, it's a hand of a worker. If you don't leave, it's gonna hit your nose.
Smell my hand.
Smell my hand.
Yeah.
Smell my finger.
Yeah.
That's Mary. You
He's
smell
like,
Mary.
Sipowicz on NYPD. Look at my ass.
You fuck my wife. You fuck my wife.
So he shows his hand. He goes, hey, you know, you got two choices. You can leave, or I can punch you in the face. And he's like, I'll take the latter. And then he kind of looks at his Irish girl, and he takes the punch so that he can hang out with poor people. This to me reminded me of like so many people's like you know, rich people like to slum it, you know?
Yeah.
Like to sort of hang out and like go like, I let a guy punch me in the face. I'm you know, I'm just like these anarcho crusty collective people, you know?
Yeah.
It's funny. I mean, there's like, that's definitely the thing everyone clowns on him throughout the whole movie for, is being like a rich person that's like, well, why are you so into these class politics? And that's like, that continues to this day, you know?
Yeah, and a lot of them were just like, well, I'm bored. Like, isn't that what Jenny said? Jenny Marx, she was just like, well, I escaped dying of boredom to live with Karl.
Yeah.
Like is ultimately that what it is? People like trust fund hippies and shit. They're just like, well, I'm bored with money. So I'm gonna slum it up, but they don't know what it's like to not have that fucking safety net, you know?
Yeah, she did express that as a character, which was kind of cool because it's just a reality of this entire question, you know? Because like when it comes to revolutionary stuff and Marxism or whatever, like all this shit, like for us, like a bunch of dudes living in Brooklyn, stuff is super academic. So the people that are really, really schooled on it are a lot of the times college people.
Yeah.
You know? And so you do get a lot of times people going like, okay, like why are you the person who's claiming to speak for all of these people when it comes to like gentrification or something?
Okay,
I saw that thing you shared about that.
Thank you. Did you read it?
No.
Okay. That's all right. But yeah, so like in out in East LA, Boyle Heights, which is a predominantly Latino community, mostly Mexicans, cholos and stuff. There's like gentrifications coming it's like Canarsie getting gentrified, right? So they're fighting it, and there's a lot of violence and property damage. Like the Latinos are just like, they shut down a coffee shop by breaking the windows regularly. They shut down an art installation or a gallery that tried to open up in the area. It's just like, get your white art out of here, Holmes. Like they're writing that shit. They're like, we don't want your white coffee, like all that. But there's a percentage of the most radical people pushing back who are actually white artists who are getting back at their colleagues in the LA artistic community for not like supporting them. Do you understand how crazy that is? Like oh my God, dude. I almost transformed into an eagle and bit a snake. Like that's how mad I fucking got at that point, man.
Wait, so the white radical
So the most radical people fighting gentrification in Boyle Heights are white artists who are using the Latino basically conflict to push against the other white artists that are moving.
Or not as
no, they're
political.
like former colleagues, and they're like basically
it's like a personal thing.
It's a personal thing. It's like, you wouldn't let me put my art in your installation. Well, I'm gonna support these Latinos to stop you from bringing your art here.
That's the funniest part of that story, because like we've all seen like a million times when there's some young white sort of college hacktivist person that wants to co-opt a thing and make it about them.
Yeah.
Because they're just like, basically a young idiot, and they're they don't realize how much damage they're doing by being like we're gonna fight gentrification, even though you are
gentrification.
But the funniest twist ever when it's literally just like, I'm gonna use this to get Carl.
Carl.
Like,
That's it. That's what I was saying. Like, what the fuck are you doing, man?
Yeah, they're just mad about their one weird art beef.
Jesus
about
Christ.
some gallery space or some shit.
It's just like, well, you know what? Maybe I made a painting out of human feces, but that's my art. Okay?
Yeah.
You should have used the feces of people from the community.
That's what I'm saying, dog.
Yeah.
We don't want your white shit, Holmes.
Yeah. We can tell. Yeah.
We can tell. It doesn't have enough corn in it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think with a lot of something I've been thinking about with gentrification, because I used to be, am for all intents and purposes a gentrifier, and I used to feel really. I mean, I still don't feel good about it, but like, if you think there's a restaurant that opened up a couple blocks from me. It's it's opened by someone from Bushwick and employs people from that community. It's like that guy isn't any less of an asshole than anyone who opens an artisanal coffee shop. Something doesn't stop being capitalist just because it's quote unquote from the community.
Yeah, if you're not addressing the whole problem from the bottom up, then it's just kind of weird and divisive.
I mean, dog, honest, I'm a gentrifier. This ain't my neighborhood.
Right, that's the thing that
people
people don't talk about is that you can be a person of color and be a gentrifier.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a 30-year-old college graduate who, well, I don't make a lot of money, but I'm living somewhere that a person native to the neighborhood could have been living at. If I wanted to move back home to Newark, New Jersey, that's my home. I wouldn't be a gentrifier there. That's where I belong. Right?
Yeah, and the radical vision is that anybody can live anywhere.
Right.
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 Yeah.
Open borders.
I was at this restaurant the other night picking up a delivery for my job, and there was this woman outside, and she was loudly talking about how she works with AIPAC, which is the the big,
pro-Israel
the big organization that's going to Israel and helping them create quote unquote settlements, and it's just completely enforcing this apartheid. And she's like, "Oh, it was great. I went last year. I'm going again. It's a big convention." And I was like, whatever. You hear this shit in New York, but then fucking 20 minutes later, I just you just link back into a conversation that you're just hearing peripherally. I just looked over and this woman was just like, gentrification is real. And she's a white woman in Brooklyn to begin with. Yeah. But then also you're gentrifying the Middle East in a way, way worse way. Yeah. But she's just lecturing all these other white people about gentrification after telling us all about how she got on a plane and went to Israel and built a house on top of somebody's fucking other house or whatever.
Yeah, this porch is made from real Palestinians.
Yeah.
It's fucking AIPAC is real.
Anyway, we should get back into this movie though.
Yeah. Well, I think that is an interesting kind of. I mean, that was a theme that I kept coming back to in the movie was privilege, because Marx was poor, but he still didn't work, and that was a big issue
he had
of
a
contention.
Patreon.
He had a Patreon.
He
had an
he
1843 Patreon.
Because all his homies were giving him I went to the post office. Did you get a job? No, I got my Patreon payment. It came in.
Yeah.
It's literally that's what it was.
Right. But they were working people, or they weren't working people, and that was an issue for them able to join certain organizations and stuff. But number one, because they didn't work or they didn't do manual labor, that afforded them the privilege to actually study these things and have a comprehensive analysis of it. Whereas if you're in it every day, it's a lot harder to do that. Also, there was a great scene. Well, I mean, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but there that great scene when they went to the what was it, the
League of
the League of the Just. Yeah,
League of the Just.
Yeah.
They go to this place and they don't want to let them in because they're not workers. And then this guy, fucking Smirnoff or whatever his name is, Weckel. Yeah. Something like that. They're talking about you guys haven't suffered. You haven't really.
Oh yeah.
And then they get this guy who comes you haven't been beaten and they get this guy who comes in and he's like really enthusiastic about Marx and Engels, but he's also like, look at these fucking scars I just got. Like he's showing them off.
He's like the
you know?
Joker.
Yeah.
He's like
the
I
Joker.
got these scars.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like this guy who's like kind of a fanatical, very like visceral preacher type, and he's able to rouse a lot of people and get them going and like get crowds of people really amped up. But where does it go? You know, and it's like, and that's something I think about a lot, is like we have this perspective now in 2018 where by having suffered the most, you have the most credibility in some discussions. And like that's not always a good way to look at things. It suffering absolutely informs your perspective on things and your politics, but to defer to that constantly, I think, can be a foolish strategy. As in the movie, we saw this, they kind of owned this guy because, as Mark showed, he didn't really know what he was talking about. He was just kind of these empty platitudes.
Yeah, that guy was great because he entered the scene by marching up the stairs in the background of the shot and saying in broken English, "Did someone said labor or something?"
Did someone say useful?
Yeah. I can't remember what the thing he said.
It was useful.
Was it useful?
It's just like, how can we prove that we are useful to you? Did someone say useful? Enter stage left.
It was such like a Kramer, like sort of weird slide in the fucking door. Like, it's so funny watching movies like this that are super dry because they still divert back to like weird Hollywood tropes of like.
I think twice in the movie I called out some shit that happened later in the movie just because I recognized the structure so.
Well, you
much.
called immediately when Engels took that punch because he wanted to fuck that girl.
Yeah.
And I was kind of not paying that much attention and I wasn't putting it all together.
Yeah.
And when I later on we revisit and they're like dating, and then like the next scene we see them, they're like married and shit. And I was like, oh, you fucking you nailed it. You've seen a lot of movies, I'm assuming.
I know romance in my movies, dog.
So he took that punch, twofold, like to ingratiate himself to these workers people, but mostly because
he wanted to smash.
he was trying to smash.
I get it.
Yeah,
I've been there.
Yeah,
You know,
he was
I've
trying
been
to get her
get into the Irish
rotary phone number.
They call that an Irish rose. The punch to the nose.
Oh wow, that's. I don't want one.
Okay. I'm just staring at you, waiting for you to be like, all right.
Yeah.
So he got down with the Irish, right? And then he wrote like
I am Irish, I should say. That's why I don't want to inbreed more.
No, buddy. Yeah. You've had enough.
We've had enough.
Yeah.
So he wrote these dope articles, right?
Uh-huh.
And then how did him and Marx meet though?
I'm trying to remember.
Well, they met at this sort of conference, the pseudo conference thing, but they alluded to them meeting at a bar years earlier.
Oh, in Munich.
And Engels was being a stuck-up prig, and Marx was like, I could tell you're a bourgeois, and you're lecturing me about communism and all this shit.
Okay,
and then they have this, so that like they come off as like not liking each other, and then eventually very quickly it turns to like, I've read your work and it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love you so much.
Yeah, there's this great scene where it's like one of I think the Niles of the Frasier of the situation. Engels is like they're both having this very intense just two straight guys hanging out, like stare down with each other, and he goes, "Oh, I've read your work, and I'll tell you exactly what I thought of it. What? I thought it was brilliant."
Kiss me.
It's like a misdirection where it sounds like he's about to tear him down. He's like, "You, sir, are a genius." And then it just cues to them going and getting shit-faced in a bar and playing chess.
Yeah.
Over like shots of like absinthe or some shit.
Yeah, they saw the Green Fairy for sure.
And then they have this wacky like boys' night out where they're throwing up, wearing top hats and tuxedos and shit.
And those lederhosen.
Uh-huh.
Oh, the lederhosen.
Oh yeah. So then after this crazy night out, Marx brings his man friend Engels back to his apartment where he lives with his significant other Jenny. And she like is stumbling around the apartment, waking up, and just sees this young foppish man, Engels, and you go, "Oh, here we go again. What'd you do this time, Marx? You brought home another crazy,
you
fucking
rascal.
communist pal or whatever." What happens after that?
So then,
it's like this is the first man he's brought home.
Oh yeah. He's just like, will you take care of him for me?
There's this weird sexual tension between all three of them and like their au pair, where they're all just like, all of the people that are connected in this movie all just kind of have this weird shit where they're like, knowingly glancing at each other a lot and just going like, you're the first boy, man, he's brought home, It's like, is this...
He doesn't make friends easily.
Yeah. Is it friends, or are you trying to fuck him or her? Like, what's going on? It's really weird. And like, I say that, it sounds like I'm joking, but like later on in the movie, Mary, the Irish girl, is just randomly talking about her husband, Frederick Ingalls. She's talking to Marx's girl, Jenny, and she's like,
so you won't have children with him ever?
Yeah.
And then she's like, well, maybe with what's her name?
She just throws out some other random girl's name.
Maybe with
Saoirse.
Maybe with
Saoirse Ronan.
Yeah, maybe with Saoirse. Maybe it's like maybe with Sally, and it's like,
who's
what?
Sally?
Oh, it's my 16-year-old little sister. I mean, she definitely wants to fuck him. Like, that's literally what she said.
Yeah, and she's like, yeah, I don't know, maybe he'll, like, we can't afford it. And then there's this weird class thing going on where the two, like, wives are basically talking to each other.
Well, one's bourgeoisie and the other's total proletariat.
Yeah, and she's like, well, it's hell to bring a child into this situation, but you have that option because you're like a rich woman, right? But then she goes, yeah, maybe you could just knock up my sister, whatever. And like, that scene seemed really weird, but then I kind of thought about it a little bit, and there's a lot of like there's a lot of like kind of queer theory that would confirm, I think, maybe what they were writing towards in this scene, which is that, like, especially back then in like industrial times, the whole concept of monogamy is a little bit more of a like it comes from the patriarchy, and the patriarchy comes from structured people's lives, which are people that are up in the upper crust or whatever.
Right.
So like, there's a lot of shit you can read about where like I don't know for sure, but like I've heard and read in a lot of things that like people like shit that's like super fringy now, like being like poly or whatever, just fucking a bunch of people, or to some extent like homosexuality and stuff like that was like way more just normal just among poor folks, because it's just you just do whatever you want to do,
just like we're all gonna die like tomorrow, like Mary's like, yeah, I'm gonna be a communist revolutionary, I'm probably gonna die, but my sister's available. Why don't you just fuck my sister? I love you, Engels, I love you very much, please fuck my sister.
Yeah, she didn't seem to give
It's kind of a
shit.
liberatory thing too, because it's like, I don't want to fucking deal with this. I still want a relationship with you, but I'm not gonna carry
I'm not gonna
a
have
child.
a kid. I'm just not gonna have a kid. If you want to be with me, you can have if you want to have a kid, you can fuck my sister.
Yeah,
please fuck my sister.
Well, that was a big thing back then, like criminalizing the poor. Not that it's not anymore, but like I remember hearing that apparently brandy was legal. Maybe I'm getting this wrong. Brandy was legal, or I'm getting mixed up. And then gin was illegal, even though they're the same alcohol.
Dog, come on, of course.
Yeah, it's like cocaine and crack.
Opium and heroin.
Yeah.
Or opioids and heroin.
Yeah.
That should stay the same the whole time.
Right.
I just thought it was dope that, femcucks were being represented in the movie. I'm not here to kink shame. It's not cucking if it's an agreement.
I felt like there was this thin veil in this movie where, like, every time they cut away from a scene, you're like, they're all fucking, and it's not on this fucking.
I'm glad it wasn't just me, because I definitely felt like there was a lot of orgies going down.
Well, they showed a little bit of sex in the movie, kind of, but it was like
it was tasteful.
You know,
fully clothed almost.
Right, that's the thing. They would have taken them so long to undress from all the clothes they wore back then that they would have eaten up like half the movie.
That's true. This one keeps my ribs in place.
Yeah. Because when Engels wakes up and he's like in his quote unquote underwear on the floor of their like kitchen or whatever, he's still wearing like what I would consider a full suit.
He was wearing a seersucker.
What I would wear to a wedding.
What I would wear to a black and white party is what he was wearing as underwear.
Yeah, he's wearing this old ass like romper thing.
Those lederhosen.
Yeah.
He was wearing the old timey bathing suits that you would wear to Coney Island.
Yeah,
like the one piece long,
the stripy muscle
with
man
the stripy
shit.
muscles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I'm bringing that back. I'm bringing back the lederhosen. It's cold. I need warm underwear.
Boop 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 interruption. Hey guys, thank you for listening. That was part 1 of our episode on the Young Karl Marx. If you would like to hear the rest of this, aka part 2, please subscribe to our Patreon and support the show. You can support what we're doing here, and at the same time you'll get access to a bunch of free extra bonus crap that we made that's behind the paywall. The way you do that is you go to patreon.com/poddamnamerica. You sign up to donate monthly, and what happens is there's a bonus RSS feed that you can find on the page. Copy that feed and then post it into your podcast app, whichever app you use. Stitcher, Beyond Pod, the really shitty podcast app that comes with a phone that they keep making worse for some reason, whatever you use, right? So you put that in there, and then that gives you access to our feed. You can subscribe to it, and then you just get updates just like you would normally get updates to the show. Pretty cool, right? So if you're so inclined and you want to hear how the saga of Friedrich Engels and Karl Marx ends, do they fuck? Do they don't? Do they not? Who knows? Yeah, pay for stuff. Anyway, to wrap up here, if you want to come see me do stand-up and you're in the Midwest, I will be in Minneapolis tomorrow night, Wednesday, March 21st, at a show called The Murder Room, which is at the Loring Bar on 327th 14th Avenue. Be like a lineup, a showcase show with Raghav Mehta, Carolyn Skoog, Dan Hinnekamp, Kate McCarthy, and Jordan Kasner. It's free. Excuse me. Also, I'll be in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, Thursday. Can't remember where. I'll tweet it out. And then Friday and Saturday, back in Minneapolis, I'll be at the Comedy Corner Underground with Raghav Mehta and Kate McCarthy. And those will be the big shows. I'll be headlining and stuff. So you can come out, say hi. I'll be selling shit. I'll read your tarot cards for $5. That's part of my merch package. And, let's hang out. Let's get beers and stuff. Midwest style. Depressingly drink ourselves to death in the snow like we're in The Replacements or something. I don't know. Are those is that the reference people make when they come to your town? It's like Prince and The Replacements. Whatever. All right. Goodbye. What the fuck?